Have you ever felt small in the presence of someone who constantly belittles, manipulates, or controls? Someone whose ego seems untouchable, yet who thrives on your reaction? What if I told you that you could dismantle that power, not with words, not with anger, but silently, effortlessly, and with grace? Today, I'm going to show you how to break a narcissist's ego without saying a single word, through the quiet, unstoppable force of self-respect, integrity, and emotional mastery. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll discover a power they can never take away. Silence is often underestimated, but it carries a power that words can rarely match, especially when facing someone who thrives on control and manipulation. A narcissist feeds on reactions, the anger in your eyes, the frustration in your voice, the defensiveness in your tone. Every response you give is like fuel to their fire, a validation of their sense of importance. But when you refuse to react, when you let the world around them continue without feeding their ego, something remarkable happens. Silence becomes a mirror, reflecting back the truth they've spent their life avoiding. Imagine standing in a room with someone who constantly demands attention, always needing to assert dominance, always seeking to make themselves the center of every conversation. You don't argue, you don't explain. You simply exist in quiet confidence, unmoved and unshaken. At first, they might try harder, escalating their attempts to provoke. But your calm, your refusal to engage in their games, slowly chips away at the fragile foundation of their inflated self-image. Without your reaction, the illusion of power starts to crack. Silence is not passive. It is deliberate. It is a choice to protect your energy, to honor your dignity, and to refuse complicity in their narrative. It communicates more than words ever could. It says, I will not play your game. I see you for who you are, and I am untouchable by your tactics. It is a quiet, unshakable assertion of self-worth, a gentle but undeniable dismantling of the ego that relies on the chaos of others to survive. In this way, silence becomes a weapon of clarity and strength. It's not about cruelty or revenge. It's about reclaiming your power and letting the narcissist confront, without any prompting, the emptiness their words and actions have long tried to hide. And once silence becomes your shield, the next step is to wrap yourself in the armor of self-respect, because silence alone, powerful as it is, can be hollow if it isn't paired with a deep, unshakable belief in your own worth. Narcissists live off attention and validation, but they crumble not when you speak against them, but when you stop allowing them to define you. When you honor yourself, your boundaries, and your values, their attempts to manipulate or belittle simply slide off like water on polished stone. Self-respect is quiet, yet revolutionary. It doesn't shout or demand recognition. It exists confidently in the choices you make, in the way you hold your head high, even when they try to diminish you. Imagine walking into a room where someone is used to bending others to their will, only to find you calm, grounded, and entirely unconcerned with their approval. In that space, your dignity speaks louder than any words could. You no longer react to their jabs because your sense of self is not tethered to their opinions. This is the subtle power that breaks egos without confrontation. A narcissist thrives on seeing others small, uncertain, or flustered. But when you protect your self-worth, you essentially remove their fuel. Your serenity becomes a quiet rebellion, your confidence a mirror they cannot shatter. They are forced to confront the truth, that the world does not revolve around them, that their attempts to control, shame, or intimidate are powerless against someone who values themselves more than they fear another's ego. Self-respect transforms silence into a living force. It is the heartbeat beneath your calm, the unyielding ground beneath your feet, and the invisible but undeniable power that reminds a narcissist, without a single word, that you are untouchable. Not because of what you say, but because of who you are. And once you've cloaked yourself in self-respect, there comes the transformative realization that walking away is often the most profound act of power. For a narcissist, control is everything. They want to tether you to their world, to keep you within the orbit of their drama. But when you step away, not out of anger or revenge, but simply because you choose peace, you shake the very foundation they rely on. Walking away is not a retreat, it is a declaration. It says without a single word that your life, your happiness, and your energy are not for negotiation. Think of it like the tide pulling back from the shore. The water doesn't argue with the rocks. It doesn't shout or plead. It simply recedes, leaving the coastline exposed, clear, and untouched. And in that emptiness, the narcissist begins to feel a rare, unsettling absence, the absence of your attention, the absence of the reactions they've depended on for validation. Their world, built on the assumption of your availability and compliance, begins to wobble. Walking away requires courage, because it goes against the instinct to fight or to try to explain yourself. It is a conscious choice to prioritize your peace over proving a point, your growth over their drama. It is in this quiet departure that your power is amplified. Every step you take away is a reminder that freedom cannot be caged, that dignity cannot be bargained with, and that true strength is measured not in confrontation, but in the calm assertion of your boundaries. When you combine silence with self-respect and the willingness to walk away, you create a force that is impossible for a narcissist to control. You demonstrate that your life is not a stage for their ego, and in that demonstration, you break their illusions without ever raising your voice. And as you step away, leaving behind the noise and chaos, something quietly profound begins to happen. You hold up a mirror. Narcissists build their lives on illusions, on the stories they tell themselves about power, superiority, and control. They rarely see themselves as they truly are because recognition of their own flaws would shatter the carefully constructed facade. But when you stop feeding their need for attention, when you stop reacting to their provocations, your very presence, or rather your absence, reflects back the truth they have long avoided. It's a subtle but devastating effect. Imagine a person who has spent years performing, convincing themselves and others of their invincibility, suddenly realizing that the audience has quietly left. They look around, searching for validation, for the reaction that once fueled their ego, and there is nothing. Nothing but silence, dignity, and calm. In that empty space, they are confronted with themselves, stripped of the armor that relied on your energy to stay intact. This mirror is not wielded as a weapon, and it doesn't need to be. It doesn't attack. It simply exists. It reflects their actions, their manipulation, their need for control, and the emptiness that hides beneath the grandiosity. And the most powerful part is that you don't have to say a word. Your integrity, your peace, your refusal to engage becomes a truth they cannot argue with. By holding up that mirror through your actions, through silence, self-respect, and walking away, you reveal what no argument or confrontation ever could. You show that their power is only what you allow it to be, and in that revelation, a narcissist's ego begins to crumble, quietly, inevitably, under the weight of its own reflection. And as your life begins to speak for itself, you realize that every action you take is more than just a reflection of your choices. It is a declaration of authenticity. Words can be twisted, criticized, or dismissed, but the truth lived is undeniable. When you respond to a narcissist, not with arguments, but with the quiet integrity of your deeds, you communicate in a language they cannot manipulate. Your life becomes your message, and that message is powerful beyond measure. Consider the subtle impact of showing up fully in your own life, meeting challenges with grace, celebrating your successes without fanfare, embracing your passions, and honoring your commitments. Every act, no matter how small, is a mirror of who you truly are. Someone grounded, self-aware, and unconcerned, with the need for external validation. A narcissist, accustomed to extracting energy through reaction, finds no purchase here. Your very existence becomes a force that unsettles them, not through confrontation, but through undeniable presence. This is the power of action over words, a calm smile in the face of provocation, the pursuit of your goals without seeking their approval, the quiet maintenance of your boundaries. All of these become instruments of influence. They reveal the hollowness of the narcissist's ego without a single argument, without a single raised voice. They show that true strength lies not in dismantling others, but in building yourself. Living authentically turns silence and self-respect into something greater, a living, breathing demonstration that freedom, dignity, and joy cannot be taken away by someone else's need for control. And in witnessing your life unfold with confidence and grace, the narcissist's fragile ego begins to crack, not because you attacked it, but because you refused to feed it, letting your truth shine brighter than any of their illusions. And as your actions continue to speak louder than words, you begin to grasp the most liberating truth. Emotional independence is the cornerstone of your power. A narcissist thrives on control, but their power exists only as long as you allow your feelings to be dictated by their whims. The moment you stop letting their words, their manipulations, or their moods shape your inner world, you reclaim a freedom they can never touch. Emotional independence is not detachment in the sense of coldness. It is liberation, a conscious decision to govern your own heart, to anchor yourself in your own peace. Imagine a storm raging around you, full of accusations, criticism, and provocation. In the past, such turbulence might have shaken your confidence, pulled you into arguments, or left you questioning your worth. But now, grounded in emotional independence, you watch the storm pass without letting it flood your mind. You are aware of the chaos, but it does not penetrate you. You are no longer the instrument upon which their ego plays. Instead, you are the calm center around which the storm swirls, unbroken, unmoved, untouchable. This kind of power is invisible yet undeniable. A narcissist can see that you are no longer reactive, that your moods, your happiness, and your confidence are your own. Every attempt to provoke you fails because you have refused to give them the keys to your emotional kingdom. You have discovered that the most effective way to dismantle their ego is not through conflict, but through complete sovereignty over your own inner world. Emotional independence transforms silence, self-respect, and authentic action into an unstoppable force. It shows a narcissist, without a single confrontation, that their attempts to control, diminish, or manipulate are powerless against someone who has chosen to stand fully in themselves. And in that choice, you are free, and their ego quietly begins to fracture. And as you cultivate emotional independence, you discover the subtle, quiet power of understatement. True strength rarely needs to shout. It doesn't demand attention or validation. It moves through life with elegance, confidence, and a calm certainty that in itself is disarming. A narcissist thrives on drama, on spectacle, on reactions. When you carry yourself with understated grace, when your confidence does not boast but simply exists, you create a force they cannot anticipate, cannot control, and cannot easily confront. Picture a room where someone is used to dominating every conversation, every space. They are used to eliciting fear, frustration, or admiration to maintain their sense of superiority. Then imagine entering that room, calm, poised, smiling softly, engaged in your own purpose, unshaken by their attempts to provoke. Without a single word, without raising a voice, you communicate far more than argument or insult ever could. You communicate that their theatrics hold no power over you. Subtlety becomes a kind of silent rebellion. A gentle smile, a composed demeanor, or the quiet pursuit of your own path is like a soft, persistent tide that erodes the fortress of their ego. They are forced to confront a reality they cannot manipulate, that not everyone is moved by their need to dominate, that confidence and dignity can exist independently of their validation. In this understated presence lies immense strength. It is a force that is both gentle and unyielding, quiet but undeniable. While a narcissist's power depends on reaction and spectacle, your calm, composed, and deliberate actions become an unshakable testimony to self-mastery. And in witnessing your serene strength, their ego, built on noise and chaos, begins to crumble silently, irreversibly, and without a single word ever being spoken. And as you move through life with subtlety and calm confidence, you begin to see that every encounter with a narcissist holds within it a hidden opportunity, the chance to turn pain into strength. Each insult, manipulation, or attempt to control is not merely an attack. It is a mirror reflecting the gaps in their character and an invitation for you to rise. Pain, when met with awareness and courage, becomes a teacher rather than a tormentor. It can forge resilience, clarity, and an unshakable sense of self that no amount of provocation can undermine. Think of it like steel being tempered in fire. The heat is intense, sometimes unbearable, yet the process strengthens it, giving it the hardness and durability it could never achieve without the flames. In the same way, the challenges posed by a narcissist can either wound you or refine you, depending on how you choose to respond. Choosing awareness over reaction, growth over resentment, transforms what once felt like a trap into a ladder for your own ascent. This transformation is silent yet profound. Every step you take toward your own growth, every moment you reclaim from their manipulation, becomes a declaration of power that cannot be denied. You are no longer defined by the pain they inflict, but by the strength you cultivate in response. Your calm, resilience, and clarity shine as proof that their attempts to control you have failed. Turning pain into strength does more than protect you. It inspires. It shows others, and even the narcissists themselves, that true power lies not in imposing one's will over others, but in rising above it. In this alchemy of adversity, the narcissist's ego weakens, not because you attacked it, but because you refuse to let it dictate your journey, allowing your pain to be transformed into unstoppable strength. And as you transform pain into strength, you begin to see the unmatched power of integrity. Living true to yourself, even in the face of manipulation, deceit, or provocation, becomes the quiet but devastating force that exposes the illusions of a narcissist. Integrity is not about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It is about aligning your actions with your values, about choosing honesty, kindness, and authenticity even when no one is watching, and especially when someone is trying to shake your foundation. Consider the contrast. A narcissist builds a life of facades, of appearances carefully constructed to maintain control and admiration. Every word they speak, every reaction they provoke, is designed to mask emptiness and inflate importance. But integrity is a light that cannot be faked. When you move through the world in alignment with your true self, their facades begin to crumble simply because they cannot withstand the authenticity that surrounds them. Your quiet adherence to your principles becomes a reflection of a reality they cannot manipulate or distort. Integrity communicates more powerfully than anger or confrontation ever could. It is in the small choices, honoring commitments, speaking truth gently, treating others with respect, and refusing to compromise your values, that your strength becomes undeniable. Without a single word directed at them, without a single attempt to prove a point, you reveal the emptiness behind their grandiosity and the futility of their attempts to control your world. In standing firm in your integrity, you demonstrate that real power is not in domination or deception, but in living authentically. The narcissist may resist, may rage, may try harder to provoke, but your unwavering commitment to truth and character slowly dismantles their ego. And in that silent, steadfast example, you show that no illusion can survive the quiet, persistent force of genuine integrity. And finally, as you live with integrity, as your life reflects authenticity, resilience, and self-mastery, you begin to realize the profound impact of leading by example. There is a quiet, transformative power in showing others what it means to rise above manipulation, to refuse to be defined by someone else's ego, and to live fully in alignment with your values. Your actions become a beacon, not only dismantling the narcissist's illusions, but inspiring those around you to reclaim their own strength and dignity. Imagine the subtle ripple effect, someone witnessing your calm in the face of provocation, your steadfastness when others falter, your joy and fulfillment independent of the chaos a narcissist tries to impose. They begin to understand, without a single sermon or confrontation, that freedom is possible, that power does not come from control, and that one can navigate life with grace and courage. Your life becomes a living lesson, a story told through choices, behavior, and unwavering self-respect. Leading by example is perhaps the ultimate way to break a narcissist's ego without ever speaking a word. You are no longer a participant in their drama. You are the demonstration of what they cannot be: grounded, self-aware, emotionally sovereign, and authentically alive. They may rage, they may attempt to reclaim control, but your example stands as a quiet, undeniable truth, a testament that real strength is measured not by domination, but by the courage to embody your best self consistently, regardless of the storms around you. And in this embodiment, the narcissist's power fades, not because you attacked it, not because you fought for recognition, but because your life itself has become the ultimate proof of freedom, integrity, and self-respect. Through your example, you teach, you inspire, and without uttering a single word, you dismantle the fragile fortress of ego, leaving only truth, strength, and the possibility of a life fully lived. So remember this: the greatest power you can wield over a narcissist is not in shouting, arguing, or proving them wrong. It is in your silence, your self-respect, your integrity, and the unwavering commitment to live fully as yourself. Every calm step you take, every boundary you uphold, every moment you rise above their chaos is a quiet act of liberation. Your life becomes the message, your actions the proof, and your example the mirror that no ego can withstand. Stand tall, live authentically, and let your strength speak louder than any words ever could.